I've been testing the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 for close to a month, and I'm convinced it might just be the best phone on the planet. One that everyone should use if they can. So let's get into why. Now, for the past year, I've been using the Z Fold 7's older sibling, Samsung's Z Fold 6, and I fell in love with that phone almost instantly, thanks to its unique design that morphs between a phone and tablet whenever I need it to. However, even after 12 months of knowing how great the phone is, whenever I talked or wrote about the Z Fold 6, I always explained that I didn't think it's the right phone for most people. And if Samsung hadn't sent us that phone for testing, I'd probably be using something like a Galaxy S25 or Google Pixel 9, because they offer better bang for your buck. Or if I did want to splash out, I'd opt for an Ultra or Pro model of those phones, because for everything the Fold 6 got right, it made a few unforced errors with its premium price despite some standard quality specs. But that's not the case with the new Galaxy Z Fold 7. Yes, it is still a very pricey beast, coming in at 1 cent short of $2,000 for its base model with 256 gigabytes of storage and 12 gigabytes of RAM. It's actually $100 pricier than its predecessor, though lucky Brits like me haven't been hit with a price hike here in the UK. However, Samsung's new foldable does a much better job of justifying this high price. For a start, Samsung took my biggest Z Fold 6 frustrations and eliminated them with the 7. The outer screen is now a 6.5-inch display instead of 6.3, but more importantly, the squashed aspect ratio of the Fold 6 has been changed to a standard 21:9. This means you'll no longer have to deal with compressed or poorly optimized apps that are cut off at the edges, as when the phone is closed, it's practically indistinguishable from a standard flagship model. When it opens, you'll unlock a larger inner screen now too, with the Fold 7 boasting an 8-inch display, which is the same size as an iPad mini, though it's more of a square compared to the Mini's rectangular design. I thought the screen on the 6 was great, but that extra space on the 7's inner screen is certainly handy for gaming, watching videos, or being productive. I actually finished this script on my Z Fold 7 while traveling to the office today. I hate writing on a regular phone, but the tablet-like Fold causes me no troubles at all. Jumping back a second, I said the 7's new cover screen makes it look a lot more like a standard flagship. But another important factor with that is how slim this phone is. At 8.9 millimeters thick when folded, the phone is just 0.7 millimeters thicker than a Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. And I kid you not, despite my fiance being used to seeing me open up my Z Fold 6 all the time, she audibly gasped when I did it with the Z Fold 7 for the first time, as until that moment she thought I was testing a standard single screen phone. It might only be 3.2 millimeters thinner than the Z Fold 6 and 24 grams lighter too, but these seemingly small savings make a world of difference in how easy the phone is to handle day in and day out. And thanks to lessons it learned from the Galaxy S25 Edge, this lighter foldable is no less durable than what came before. Okay, but the real world of change comes from the cameras. While on paper its 12 megapixel ultra-wide and 10 megapixel 3x optical zoom lenses don't look to be any better than what the 6 gave us, Samsung says some other hardware tweaks have been made behind the scenes to improve the image quality of those cameras on the Z Fold 7, which does look to be the case from our testing. But where there's no doubt that the Z Fold 7 is better is with its 200 megapixel main sensor, the same megapixel count you'll get from Samsung's S25 Ultra. I'll get back to this Ultra comparison in a minute, but know that the camera array on the Z Fold 7 is close to perfection for casual photographers like me. Selecting this 200 megapixel option allows the phone to produce high-resolution photos that you can then crop as needed. Or by using the 50 or 12 megapixel options, I can snap a photo that uses pixel binning and other software tricks to enhance the clarity, contrast, and colors of my snaps. And before I forget, this phone can record in 8K at 30 FPS or at 4K 60, which should be plenty for any aspiring videographer. Now, I predominantly use the phone's foldable design to take selfies with the rear camera array and the cover screen, but if you need a quick self-portrait or do a video chat, you'll appreciate the pair of 10 megapixel selfie cameras the phone now offers. The outer selfie snapper was already 10 megapixels, but the inner camera replaces a 4 megapixel under display camera, and I can't tell you how much of an upgrade this is, even if it is now a hole punch. The under display camera was never the most well hidden snapper to begin with, and its picture quality was utterly useless. I often wished it simply didn't exist. The hole punch is rarely a distraction, bordering on never, and is actually worthwhile. I saw a lot of people complaining about this change ahead of the launch, but it's honestly one of my favorite tweaks with the Z Fold 7. Now, lastly, the Z Fold 7 borrows the S25 Ultra's Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy chipset, and gets an out-of-the-box software upgrade to One UI 8. This has brought me a suite of useful tools and features, including access to Now Brief and Now Bar, which launched with the S25 phones earlier this year, giving it a few more upgrades again over the Z Fold 6. Now, not every aspect has received a major update this time around, however. The battery size of the Z Fold 7 is the same as the Z Fold 6, but some efficiency improvements means that Samsung says it can squeeze out about an extra hour of battery life, bringing it up to 24 hours between charges, according to Samsung's video playback tests. This is still less than the Galaxy S25 Ultra's 31-hour battery life under the same Samsung conditions, and I found from my real-world testing that the Fold 7 does usually need a top-up towards the late afternoon or evening, that is, if you want to comfortably make it all the way until bedtime with the amount of video watching and gaming that I do on the foldable, often doing both at the same time because I, like so much of Gen Z, have an attention span problem. It also still only boasts the same IP48 rating as the Z Fold 6. That 8 means it's waterproof enough to withstand submersion in water for about 30 minutes at a depth of 1.5 meters or less. So perfect if you forget it's in your pocket when you slip into a hot tub or accidentally fumble it into a pool, which I can't say I haven't done both of those to the Z Fold 6 in the past year. That 4 is less impressive, as it's out of 6 and tells us the Z Fold 7, like the Fold 6 before it, can only stop solid objects greater than 1 millimeter in size, so dust and sand could cause trouble. Now, this isn't ideal, especially as there are rumors upcoming foldables like the Google Pixel 10 Pro Fold, which hasn't been officially announced at the time of recording, might offer IP68 levels of protection. Though I have to admit that for my day-to-day usage, the IP48 rating is plenty. I visited 3 sandy beaches and spent a week in the desert this past year with my foldables as my daily driver, and while I was careful with it so to not drop it in the sand, I didn't go overboard with a Ziploc bag or anything, and my phones have come away completely unscathed. If you work in an especially sandy or dusty environment, one that always comes to mind for me is something like a woodworking shop, which has dust and wood shavings floating around constantly, then you might find this phone isn't quite hardy enough. But if you do an office job and treat the foldable with a reasonable level of care, then you should be absolutely fine. Case in point, I only use a screen protector with my phones, and while they do get a little bumped and a little scraped over that time, I haven't had any serious issues in my whole year of testing the Z Fold 6 and my month of testing the Z Fold 7. Okay, so I said I'd get back to the S25 Ultra, and here we are. The Galaxy Z Fold 7 was billed as an ultra-level phone, and in many ways, that's 100% true. Though if you get into the nitty-gritty, the Ultra does have some advantages. Chiefly, its battery is bigger, its camera array is stronger, and its display resolution is higher. And it also supports the S Pen, though I never used a stylus with the Z Fold 6, and frankly, couldn't care less that the Z Fold 7 doesn't support one. But the gap between the Fold 7 and the S25 Ultra in these areas has definitely shrunk from where the 6 was. And with its massive tablet-like inner display, the foldable finally has enough of an edge on Samsung's other phones, including the Ultra, that for me and many others, the Fold 7 is the best Samsung phone overall. No doubts about it. Now, I know cost will play the biggest part in deciding your next phone, but I would wholeheartedly recommend giving the Z Fold 7 some attention if your budget can comfortably stretch that far, through deals or maybe an affordable monthly phone contract. Unlike the Z Fold 6, this feels like a phone that you won't regret buying, and if I was forced to buy this phone for myself, I would snap it up in a heartbeat, something I wasn't able to say about the foldables that came before it. So that's it for our Z Fold 7 impressions. Remember to subscribe so you can catch our next tech review when it drops, and we'll see you in the next one.